Hey there, all you ghouls and goblins. Radio 85.9 proudly presents Horror Zoid with your hosts, Stevie Scares and Natalie Nightmare, talking all things horror from the 80s, 90s, and today. Today's episode is brought to you by House of 1,000 Blouses. With deals this good, you'll want to run, rabbit, run to your nearest location. Welcome back to Horror Zoid, everybody. I'm Stevie Scares.
And I'm Natalie Nightmare.
We are talking Scream Queens and Final Girls today. Thank you for joining us for another lovely episode.
Yeah.
We have had a blast doing this. We've had a blast interacting with all of you, hearing your thoughts, hearing your opinions on everything as we give our opinions. That's what this is about. It's a cycle. We're going to share everything with each other.
Yeah, we just want to talk about horror because that's what everybody wants to do. But we just decided to take the leap and do it.
Absolutely, we did, and we are extremely grateful because we've met and interacted with a lot of great people. So again, thank you everyone for the support so far. It's been tremendous.
It's phenomenal.
So starting out here, again, today's episode is Scream Queens and Final Girls. Mm-hmm. And I guess you can kind of say we're celebrating the women of horror because to me, I didn't think horror would be nothing without some of the great, powerful female icons that we have had over the years. Mm-hmm. Scream Queens, Final Girls, they're staples of everything. Final Girls, of course, are going to be it's your woman who makes it to the end of the movie, and sometimes they survive, and sometimes they bite the dust. May not always be in the first movie, but in the end, I think it's always the villain that gets the last laugh.
Yeah.
And then your Scream Queens is a term for those of you who aren't familiar. It's basically if you see a lady pop up in a bunch of horror movies, and you're like, hey, she pops up in a lot of horror movies. It's a Scream Queen.
She's pretty kick-ass. Look at her go.
I think, to me, the rule is at least 3. You've got to be in at least 3 horror movies to constitute Scream Queen status.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fair.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just kind of what everyone says, you're the up-and-coming.
And there's a lot of great up-and-comers that are out there. We'll get to some of those later. But today we're going to tackle mainly the big Scream Queens, the most popular Scream Queens that are out there, and the Final Girls. Honestly, we were talking about this, kind of outlining the episode, and we realized that this is something that, we could talk about forever. We could go on and on about Scream Queens and Final Girls.
We could probably sit here for 7 hours straight and still just barely get through half of how many amazing women of horror there are out there.
There truly are.
Yeah.
And again, we could go on for days about this. We could talk ad nauseum about Scream Queens and Final Girls. There are going to be some that we leave out, so please don't hold that against us.
Right.
Really, we plan on doing this podcast for a long time to come. So there's a strong possibility we're going to have a part 2 on this down the line at some point. So if you didn't hear a favorite of yours in this episode, first off, let us know. horrorzoidpod@gmail.com. Or talk to us on TikTok at HorrorZoidPod. We love to hear what you think.
Yes, we do.
But yes, we will probably do a number 2 on this because we have so much content to get to, so many Scream Queens and Final Girls to talk about that I know we can't fit it all in just one episode.
Exactly. Yeah.
So starting out, we're going to talk about kind of the origin of the Final Girls. And really, it really starts in 1974 with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original Tobe Hooper film, and Marilyn Burns, who played Sally Hardesty. And Sally Hardesty really, by definition, was the first true original Final Girl.
Yeah.
She started everything when she hopped in the back of that truck, ran away from Leatherface as he was just flinging that chainsaw.
Doing the chainsaw dance.
Letting it rip.
Yeah. She is phenomenal. I mean, the shot of her, the way the truck's driving away and she's covered in blood and she kind of laughs in a psychotic break is just, I mean, it's memorable. It's a fantastic scene for a Final Girl.
It is, and it was amazing how she was put through so much hell and so much torture through that movie, so much psychological anguish. You mentioned how at the end it seems like she's having a psychotic break, and I think that's pretty accurate. That's another staple of Final Girls and Scream Queens as well, is they go through hell in these movies. And, it can take a psychological toll on the audience, the actors, everywhere. But we appreciate that sacrifice, and that's why we're honoring them with this episode today. But yeah, Marilyn Burns, Sally Hardesty, definitely considered by many to be the original final girl in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. She comes back. She has a small cameo at the end of Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation, which is a flaming pile of shit, but we love it.
We love it. Don't come for us.
We love how much of a flaming pile of shit it is.
Just we're talking about this. how we can absolutely love these trash movies.
And then we see, of course, Sally comes back in the 2022 Texas Chainsaw sequel as well.
Yeah, which I think everyone can agree is a weak comeback in a way. I think that they kind of wrote her and did her a little dirty. I think she could have been a lot cooler looking at what she went through before, but I digress. It was cool to see her, but there was more to be desired there with her.
Oh, a lot of people are pretty dissatisfied with how they did Sally in there, but we've talked about it before. I mean, the producers, she was a plot device. That's really all it was.
She was. It was kind of a, hey, look who's coming back kind of thing, and I just think it wasn't pushed into the full potential. But they can always retcon it in 3 years and do another one.
Very true. Very true. Remake of the remake,
right?
So where we get another one of where Jessica Biel comes back in 50 years, and then she's got a sequel, and then she comes back, she's like Leatherface.
Listen, I'm here for that because she is amazing. That movie is probably my favorite Texas Chainsaw.
It's up there with some of mine as well. I love Texas Chainsaw 2. Chop Top will never be beat for me. And speaking of Texas Chainsaw 2, thank you for the transition there. We're going to talk about the final girl from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Stretch, played by the iconic Caroline Williams.
Yes, and I was really excited, and this will be the first kind of shout out, and again, reminder to any new listeners that if you interact with us on TikTok, we love getting your feedback and opinions, and this is one that's kind of been on my mind for a couple of days, but Narcotic Casserole mentioned Stretch, and I think we are just so excited to talk about it because we love Texas Chainsaw 2, and she's just a fucking awesome final girl.
Right, and we talked about the ending of Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, the original Tobe Hooper movie. Tobe Hooper directs the sequel. This was 1986, I want to say, and it was what they did with Sally, where she has that amazing ending where she hops in the back of the truck and drives away, or somebody drives her away. The ending with Stretch, where she's got that fucking chainsaw.
She does the chainsaw dance.
She does, exactly. It was like this awesome role reversal from Tobe Hooper. Like he was flipping everything on its ear.
Yeah.
She is the one wielding the chainsaw instead of Leatherface or any of the Sawyer family for that matter.
Yeah.
It was a spectacular sequel. There's that scene in Texas Chainsaw 2 where Leatherface, they're in the record studio, and Leatherface has the chainsaw.
He's pushing the chainsaw up towards her, and it's really
right there
personal.
At her pelvis.
It's scary.
It's one of the coolest scenes in any Texas Chainsaw movie I've ever seen. I absolutely love that one. It has a soft spot in my heart for sure.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal movie. I mean, besides the magic that we get of the Sawyer family, and of course Bill Moseley. Come on.
Bill Moseley is a hero of ours.
Absolutely. That's it. A Bill Moseley episode to be announced. Let's go.
Right. We're definitely going to do a Bill Moseley episode where we talk about all of his wonderful contributions to the world of horror. So, Bill, if you end up listening, you got that down the pipeline. We're definitely going to pay tribute to you.
Yes, we love you, Bill. But even in there's the scene where the guy goes into the store and he's just slaps down cash and walks out with 2 chainsaws.
Oh no! You say that, but you gloss over the best part because first off, it's Dennis Hopper who's throwing the money down for the chainsaw. Secondly, it's Dennis Hopper almost like eye fucking, like making love to the chainsaws with his eyes. Like he almost has like this very erotic physical relationship with the chainsaws while he's in the store.
You say that, he has that relationship, but going back to what you were just talking about, there's a lot of weird imagery with chainsaws in that movie being a very masculine kind of weird image.
It's phallic, and
Yeah.
while we're on the subject of final girls and scream queens and feminism and horror, really,
Yeah.
it's almost like Tobe Hooper took a page out of Slumber Party Massacre's book, where the idea of this killer, and chasing all these girls, he's represented by a phallic weapon, and I'm sure, I don't know if that was the intention with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it definitely seems like it was the kind of the epicenter of the idea for Texas Chainsaw 2, because it is very I don't want to say, what's the word, it's symbolic of some of the masculinity versus feministic tones. Especially with where the world was in the 80s.
Yeah, because she's just like surrounded by men in that movie.
Exactly.
From whether it's Dennis Hopper's character or the Sawyer family or just people in the movie in general, she's, that big feminist icon, really.
She is, because she, there's also the scene where she goes to get Dennis Hopper to help her, and he initially refuses, and she says she's not going to give up. She is a
and then he comes crawling to her.
Exactly. It's again, Tobe Hooper is very intelligent with what he's done. So, we talked about some of the final girls of the Texas Chainsaw series. Moving on, the next big final girl that probably came about is Laurie Strode, played famously by Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Laurie Strode, of course, the main protagonist, the heroine, the final girl, the Scream Queen of the Halloween franchise, and that 1978 classic directed by John Carpenter. She also went on to appear in Halloween 2 and Halloween H2O.
Halloween 3.
Halloween 3, she has the voice cameo.
Yeah, she's got the voice cameo.
Jamie Lee definitely came back for that.
They're showing Halloween on the TV in the bar. And this is kind of one of those where we start to see the final girls where they have multiple timelines. There's multiple Laurie Strodes out there, really.
There really are, because we see, like I talked about, she was in Halloween H2O, and that starts the H2O resurrection saga. And in that, she starts out, we revisit her. She is in like a witness protection thing. She's a headmistress of a school. She goes by the name Tate, something Tate. Miranda Tate, I want to say is her name.
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't
I
remember.
was getting ready to say Sharon Tate. That's somebody completely different. But yes, it was in my head earlier. Now I've lost it. But she does. She's the headmistress in witness protection. Michael finds her again. Resurrection, of course. She is unceremoniously killed off. But nobody let that stop them, because they brought her back in 2018 as the OG Laurie Strode, which negates every Halloween sequel and just takes place right after the original 1978
Which
film.
I'm fine for, because you can't, I feel like, with that much of a time frame, besides recasting a final girl, I mean, what are you going to do at this point? So I think I don't have a problem with the retcon. I love going 2018 Halloween Kills and soon to be Halloween Ends. I think it's a great storyline. And I love old Laurie. She's just a badass.
I say old Laurie, vintage Laurie is a tremendous character, because we've never seen
precision.
But we've never seen that, though. We haven't seen that yet. We're coming to this age of horror movies where a lot of our heroes and icons are hitting their golden years now. They are becoming elder citizens. So now we get to go back to these, with these legacy sequels, these requels, whatever you want to call them, and we're seeing these final girls become final women and final elderly women. I mean, it's like
final grandmas,
final grannies,
moms.
final grannies. I love it.
Final granny. She's a final granny, and that leads us into one of my personal favorites, Sidney Prescott, who was a final mommy, and she made it out alive. And we don't know where she's going from here. It's up in the air. But I love seeing these characters actually have some sort of age and development, whether it's, in Laurie's situation, she's terrified, she's training for Michael, and Sydney's just trying to move on.
It's an interesting juxtaposition, and I don't know if the producers of Scream 5 wanted to, aka 5 Cream, I don't know if the producers of 5 Cream wanted intentionally just to make Nev and Sydney a little different than Laurie, because I feel like you could have easily done the same story with Nev Campbell and Sydney, where she's just bitter and older and just waiting for revenge, kind of like what they did with Lori. But it's almost like they intentionally wanted to do a 180 and show a successful, healthy, well-adjusted final girl in Sydney.
Well, and there's something that I really, and this might be one of the things that I really love about Sydney, is that in every sequel, she's just trying to move on. You know, she moves, she's going to school, she's doing this, she does, you know, she's moving all around. And, you know, in the 5th movie, you know, she only comes back because of Dewey being there and everybody else being there. But, you know, you see her, she's jogging, she's got her little baby stroller, and she's trying to move on. She's got a family, and, you know, I like seeing that there's a character that can move on and not just this tortured, fucked up person like Lori is. I mean, she's an alcoholic who's obsessed and ruined her family. And I like having that difference. I would like to see more older final girls actually go somewhere and not just be like how dirty they did Sally.
Right. So it, like you pointed out, Lori and Sydney are entirely different because of the way they've been written in 2022. And with these later sequels, you know, Sydney moves on, Lori doesn't. Another thing we kind of touched upon is Sydney only has one timeline, and Lori has 3 at this point, basically. So
which for Sydney, I think's super fucking impressive.
It's impressive, but it's almost like, you know, we those two are probably the perfect comparison because they are so different. You know, it's like I feel like everybody likes both.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Lori. Everybody loves Sydney. But I'm curious to know what people's preferences are. Because for me, I love what they're doing with Halloween. I love the way they've done Laurie Strode's character because I think it's more realistic in my opinion. Because I think I think if you were to really go through that, you would live with a lot of trauma and it would shape who you are.
Right.
And it kind of paints the picture of how would Laurie be if she hadn't gone through that. And you kind of get that. Halloween is one of the few, because of these multiple timelines and universes, it's interesting because we do get to see what if Laurie moved on and was successful. We get to see what if Laurie was written by Rob Zombie. We get to see what if Laurie, you know, just what if she just lived for 40 years with trauma after the 1978 film.
Right.
And I love that we get that. And in a weird way, don't take this the wrong way, guys. It's not that I want them to reboot Scream, but I kind of want to see a new take on Sydney at some point. I would love to see Scream rebooted, remade, and get another interpretation of Sydney, or maybe even an alternate timeline Sydney.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a cool premise. I almost feel like at this point with 5 movies, it'd be hard to feel like it's not trying too hard to like continue going in a different way. I think, you know, you're talking about how you like what they're doing with Lori, and it's, as you're talking, I was kind of thinking about how they're trying to set up to be able to continue these movies. Because we've heard from, you know, tons of horror directors, how do you continue a movie is, what are the killers going to do next, you know? So you always have them coming back. But with Lori, you know, with the new Halloween movies, something I really love and I think is going to slowly develop into a really kick-ass character is her granddaughter, Allison. You know, they're setting her up, really, if you look at it, to be able to continue the Halloween franchise. Because Jamie Lee Curtis isn't going to be able to do this forever. And no one, it's like Robert Englund. No one's going to want somebody other than Jamie Lee Curtis for Laurie Strode. And, you know,
I don't know. I think Scout Taylor Compton did a really good job as Laurie.
Sure.
And when I say really good
totally
job,
agree.
I mean, she's not a classic thespian by any means.
She screams really good.
She screams amazing, and I think she's terrific for that role. And that's I kind of bring her up to throw her in this discussion of Scream Queens and Final Girls because Scout Taylor Compton in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies represents a different side of Laurie.
Yeah,
than
I mean
what
a
we're
different
even
side
seeing,
of all of Halloween,
of course.
Which is almost why, like, and not to disrespect it, because if you know anything about us, we love Rob Zombie's Halloween movies, but they're in such a different dimension than the other movies.
But I think they're
what
supposed
I mean?
to be.
They absolutely they stand on their own, and that's the way they should be. He didn't try to push himself into a franchise. That's why I like it. You know, but Rob Zombie, that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. And
But
while we're on the subject of Rob Zombie, let's throw out another name, another Scream Queen, Sherry Moon
Sherry
Zombie,
Moon
his
Zombie,
wife.
yeah.
You know, whether you love her or hate her, whether you agree with the fact that Rob Zombie puts her in all of his movies, Rob Zombie's Jaws would be pretty impressive. The poster has become very. I love seeing that meme pop up every time now. But Sherry Moon Zombie, in my opinion, she could more than hold her own in any situation, in any movie. She would easily. She's one of those actors now that you look at her and it's like, of course, this is what she was made for. Like, regardless if Rob Zombie put her in these movies or not, I guarantee you somebody was going to make her a Scream Queen, a final girl, and put her in a shitload of movies.
Yeah.
It just happened that she married a guy who wanted to make horror movies and decided to just make her his muse.
Yeah.
So Sherry Moon has had an extensive career. Of course, a majority of her roles are in her husband's films, Rob Zombie's films. Her only appearance outside of that being Tobe Hooper's 2004 film, The Toolbox Murders, remake of a classic 70s slasher. And Sherry Moon is one of those actors that I love because it feels like when you watch the movies, especially in a certain sequence, you get to see the growth and development of a performer, of a true performer. Because when you watch their latest film, 3 from Hell, and you watch House of a Thousand Corpses, you see an actor evolve. People can love her or hate her. People criticize her all the time, but you cannot disagree or argue with the fact that Sherry Moon Zombie has grown and evolved since that first role in such an impressive way.
Absolutely. And there's something about her, in every movie, she might have a line that's poorly delivered, like a lot of actors do. But there's something about so much of her line delivery and just the energy and presence that she brings. Like, one of the things that's popping in my head is in 31 as Charlie, where they stop at that gas station. She steps out and she's just standing there kind of looking around, and she's just so kick-ass looking. She just brings so much to a scene, whether it's her performance in House of a Thousand Corpses when she's doing the like karaoke kind of thing, or Michael's mother in Halloween. She gives a really, honestly, kind of emotional, I mean, not saying like tearjerker, but like how a mother should kind of react in that situation.
Right. Does she deserve an Oscar for that performance? No, but honestly, I think it's one of her best performances. I think she shows incredible range as an actress. And, I really think that her acting, while not the best, does deserve at least a second glance and a second glimpse, because she has truly come such a long, far way. And I'm really, as of the recording of this film, we're getting ready to have the Munsters released.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of her playing Lily. It's
I've only heard one line from her because I'm like scared to see everything. Like, I don't want to see a lot, And so like I'll see teaser posters and stuff, but it's like I'm so excited for it. Just like, I know it's going to be the Munsters, like that campiness, like he's bringing it, how
he named
was.
his most successful song fucking Dracula.
Right.
It is his most popular song, and it's named after Herman Munster's literal drag car.
And I love that.
How much of a bigger fan can you find for the Munsters?
Exactly. And I think he's done so much of the imagery justice, but it still feels Rob Zombie.
And it feels like something that with Sherry, it seems like it's something that she also loves and enjoys, because there's the picture of Lily Munster on the wall in House of a Thousand Corpses.
Thank you for saying that. I was just thinking that when she's sitting there putting her makeup on and it's kind of panning, you see that. And, that's just, it could be, and they're even watching the Munsters.
Yes.
In the movie.
Right. Grandpa Hugo and I was getting ready to say Chop Top, but Otis are, watching the Munsters.
Put me behind the wheel of that bitch. I'll show you driving.
You useless fuck. You couldn't even fit your big ass in that seat. We love House of a Thousand Corpses, so that's our quote of the week right there.
Yeah.
Good old fashioned House of a Thousand Corpses.
But you're talking about her range, and I know I read an article somewhere that at the premiere of this, she walked out midway or something because they didn't get the reaction that they were kind of hoping for.
And which film was this on? I
was getting there.
Okay.
I was building up the tension.
Okay.
But something that I've found through so many people just like me, it's their favorite Rob Zombie movie next to House of Thousand Corpses just because it holds a special place. But Lords of Salem.
I love Lords of Salem. Glad
I
you mentioned it.
love her so much in that movie. The way she changes completely, and the way it ends with that beautiful image with all the pure bright light, it takes you through all of these moods. Like, you have her all happy working at, the radio show, and then you have this recluse, depressed, like whatever is happening as she's changing.
Drug addicted.
Yeah, and it's just such a pretty movie. I mean, the cast alone in the movie is fantastic.
Right.
But she's so good in that movie.
Yeah.
I love that movie. Everything about it. I don't care. That's the hill I'd die on for any movie, really.
I'll die on that hill with you. I love Lords of Salem. But while we're on the subject, moving on to other Scream Queens, we've got some terrific mentions on TikTok.
Yes. So, and we're going to come back to a couple of the big ones I know everyone talks about. But something that I really liked that kind of branches off, from Scream, there were a couple people... Arts_92 on TikTok said Gale Weathers.
Gale Weathers is a terrific choice, and I hate that she does not get mentioned a lot in the grand scheme of Scream Queens and Final Girls. Because let's be real.
I mean, even in the last movie, she gets shot, and she's just like, okay, let's keep going.
Right, and Gale is she's second to Sydney. Right, mm-hmm. She's silver medal, Sydney's gold medal. There's no arguing that. But Gale Weathers is as much of a final girl as Sydney. She's gone through hell. She's been put through the ringer. Like we said, that's a big ingredient with a lot of your final girls is they're put through hell. But Courtney,
she's smart. She's prepared. Mm-hmm. She's independent. She doesn't need anybody to help her. She just does what she wants to do half the time as long as there's a camera.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, Gale is one of the few characters who I've ever seen where she owns her flaw, I guess you could say, in the sense that she is a narcissist. Mm-hmm. She is very self-centered. She's all about her fame and her infamy and popularity.
Yeah.
But she doesn't hide it. She doesn't shy away from it. She doesn't run away from it. She owns it. Yeah. And for like back in 96, like she was very in control of who she was. She was very, like you said, independent. But there was just this extra layer of IDGAF, and you're like, wow, when was the last time you really saw that in a character?
Right. I mean, even, from the get-go, whenever she brings Cotton out in front of Sydney, and, you realize she doesn't give a fuck, like you said.
Yeah, it's tremendous, and Courtney Cox doesn't get enough credit for how she plays her. There's this confidence that she brings to Gale Weathers, and it's funny to me because I have always thought with Courtney Cox, like when I watch things like when I was younger, like Friends, and would watch her in stuff like Ace Ventura and other films that she was in, there was always something, even when she was playing a good guy or a heroic character, that always seemed unlikable about her. And I don't mean that to sound shitty about her, because I think
I understand.
There's just like this, there's something about her that it's like she looks like every pretty girl that everybody's like, she's so pretty, I hate her. Like she is so like that was Courtney Cox back in the day. So there was
that's
this
funny you say that. I 100% get what you mean, and that's something even before she cut her bangs.
Oh God. The infamous bangs.
But whenever she comes out in the first movie, she's beautiful, but
she's
look at her
she's kind
and
of
you're
femme
like,
fatale, the way she interacts with Dewey.
Yeah, you're like, oh, she's gonna fuck people up along
right.
the way. And I mean, she does, but she survives multiple encounters with Ghostface. Moving on kind of from there, just to keep it flowing here, I want to mention one of your favorites, Kirsty Cotton.
Kirsty Cotton, I will die on this hill, is the most underrated Scream Queen and final girl that's out there. Nobody talks about Kirsty the way they should.
Well, and it's funny because there were a lot of people, Bella Lugosi and Bat Duck on TikTok were two that mentioned her.
And you two are all right in my book because we're on the same page. Kirsty deserves more respect. Justice for Kirsty.
Yeah,
justice for Barb. Justice for Kirsty. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, we love Barb here.
We love Barb, but fucking come on, Kirsty.
Kirsty is phenomenal. So, obviously, if you haven't figured it out by now, we're talking Hellraiser.
Oh, 1987 original, written short story by Clive Barker, a novella called The Hellbound Heart, and then he directed the fucking movie. What a
Hell
boss
yeah.
move.
Badass.
I love Clive
That's
Barker.
what I'm going to do. Go write a book and then make a movie.
Bingo. And he takes this actress, Ashley Lawrence, and oh my god.
She is
She's a
to
forever
me,
crush.
Yes. I was going to say forever crush and just like probably one of the most beautiful final girls. There's something about her that's
she's
just so
80s.
charismatic. Oh, the hair, so 80s.
Her hair, her outfits in that movie. She was just like that cool, casual 80s music video girl. Like she would totally be in a video with a boy band like New Kids, and they'd be chasing her.
Totally.
But no, instead it's a leather-clad Doug Bradley with pins in his head, chasing her from his hell dimension because her uncle decided to play with some demon sex box.
Yeah. And
Sex Box and Sex Box Series 1X.
And, not talking Hellraiser right now, even though I know it pains you not to, but
I love Hellraiser
Kirsty,
so much.
Another, feminist icon for me. She's strong, didn't need nobody. There's even a moment where she kind of like pushes her dude out of the way. Like
right,
he's in the way. Like, I know what I'm doing. Let me fuck up Pinhead.
He goes to touch the lament configuration at the end of the movie,
to take it from her.
she pulls it back. She's like, no, this is mine. Back the fuck up. And I love that because it is very Kirsty. And we won't touch on Hellraiser too much, but the one thing I will say is when she comes back for that later sequel, Hellraiser Hellseeker, even though she's very little of the movie, she ends up proving once again she's strong, she's independent, she don't need no man. In fact, she made the Cenobites bow to her finally.
Yeah.
Like Hellseeker's such an underrated sequel that doesn't get talked about enough.
It's such a
and I
good
get
sequel.
it's shitty. They're all shitty, guys. Can we admit like they're all shitty and some of them are just less shitty than others? For me, Hellseeker is less shitty than the other Hellraisers, and that's why, because it's Kirsty being ultimate boss bitch.
And them trying to figure out what kind of Cenobite can we have next? One that has like discs that fly out of his head or some shit.
Look, okay, so Kirsty can't take credit for that. That's not on Ashley Lawrence. That was hell on earth. It was a weird time in our lives, and we're not going to talk about the fact that there was a guy with a camera. There's a Cenobite with a camera.
Yes.
So
now going from yours to mine.
Yeah.
Nancy fucking Thompson.
Nancy Thompson is, we've kind of transitioned into what others have suggested, but Nancy Thompson was going to be talked about regardless with us.
Yes.
Because obviously from our previous discussions, you understand we are big fans of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and Nancy is as big a part of that as Wes Craven and Freddy Krueger. It's like, you can't talk about Nightmare without talking about Nancy Thompson. You can't talk about horror without talking about Nancy Thompson and Heather Langenkamp's performance. You got the 1984 original. She's not in 2.
Another
Two is
stunning
wonderful.
80s girl.
Oh gosh. Heather Langenkamp came along at the right time. She was made for the 80s. Like, you look at the girls who were cute and popular and hot and awesome in the 80s. Heather Langenkamp is in that list.
And another thing about her, and this is probably one of the big reasons that as I got older and I watched it at an age where I could understand it more, she constantly through that movie is telling men what they should or should not do, and then none of them listen to her.
Right.
And she's one of those kind of like, ha ha, I told you so by the end. Not her personally, but that's how I feel like when I watch it. Because it's like all of this shit, if people would just listen to her. And I know there's a lot of stuff with the final girls, they should just listen. But like, it's a dream dude fucking killing kids. Like, listen to her. Like, you can't be like, oh yeah, the buckets of blood from that kid was normal. Like, listen to her.
I really think that that Home Alone, I would have loved for there to be a scene where Kevin McAllister sits and watches Nightmare on Elm Street and how Nancy traps Freddy Krueger because Kevin totally was a ripoff of Nancy. Like, look at what Nancy does to trap Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
That's Home Alone before Home Alone.
Totally.
But the other thing I want to mention with Nancy is the actress Heather Langenkamp playing her also played Heather Langenkamp in Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Yes.
She is the only final girl that I can think of that has played herself and a character and escaped from the same murderous villain slasher. And to see, like, New Nightmare was Wes Craven dipping his toe into meta horror by making her Heather Langenkamp and not Nancy Thompson, even though there is a weird scene where they blend realities.
Yes.
But it was him dipping his toe into meta horror in 94, and then what do we get in 1996 but Scream, the ultimate meta horror? So Nancy and Heather, they both deserve this insane amount of credit for jump-starting Wes Craven in slashers and jump-starting him in meta horror, all with this Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which to me has always been Wes Craven's favorite toy.
Right.
That he goes back to time and time again he would have fun with it. And, it's funny that when Wes Craven was involved as a director, on those two movies, Nightmare and New Nightmare, and then he's a producer on 3, look who was a part of each one of those. He kept bringing Heather back for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, he trusted her and loved her to put his franchise in her hands. And I think that speaks volumes about her legacy
I agree.
in horror and in that franchise.
100%. I think that's an awesome. I hope everyone just learned something cool and new.
Yeah, we're dropping knowledge bombs. Yes, we got some other great mentions to go through as well.
And some of these I'm just gonna kind of shotgun. Like some of our Scream Queens. Obviously, a lot of people know the big ones, right? You've got Linnea Quigley. You've got Jennifer Tilly.
Oh, Jennifer Tilly, yes.
There's so many, old and new, right? And, we were kind of talking about some a little bit before we started. And you brought up one that I really like thinking about the old and the new with her is Brittany Snow, which was just recently in X. And she was phenomenal.
While we're on the subject of Brittany Snow, like, X featured three terrific Scream Queens, because we have Brittany Snow, like you said, she represents past and present, even though it feels like she hasn't been around that long. She's been in quite a few at this point. Going back to 2008's remake of Prom Night, and the Would You Rather film, which was terrific.
Would You Rather is phenomenal.
Yes, and then of course X. 3 big ones in my opinion.
Yeah, Jenna Ortega, I'm sorry. I first saw her watching You on Netflix. And she's great in that show, and I was super excited to see her start to get these other roles. Like Scream, she brought it. Like that whole opening, sick as fuck. Badass final girl too.
Yes.
And but you've also got Mia Goth.
Yeah, the third in the trio of these Scream Queens in X, Mia Goth. You in a film you showed me years ago, A Cure for Wellness.
Yeah.
Really, to me, that was one of the things that kind of jump started her as this, no pun intended, this gothic hero, because she does have a very gothic resume and gothic look to her.
Yeah, she's got this, strange presence in A Cure for Wellness, and that whole movie is bizarre and beautiful and just neat looking. From the scenery to the casting, really. But, seeing the way she's changed from when I watched Cure for Wellness years ago to when we went and saw X.
She's evolved.
She's evolved.
We talked about Sherry's evolution. Like, Mia Goth has come a long way as well with her acting ability, because in A Cure for Wellness, although her performance is good, there's not a lot called upon from her. Whereas in X, she was expected to carry the load. In more ways than one. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but it is what it is at this point. She plays her main role that you see her on the poster as, but she's also the villain in the movie. She plays the old woman who is the villain in X.
Yes.
And it's so the reason I mentioned that, the reason I felt it necessary to talk about that, is because it calls upon her as an actress to literally encompass and embody both hero and villain, and final girl and Scream Queen, but also the slasher itself. And again, we're talking about kind of history making performances. To me, it's the first time I can remember a woman, not anybody, like a female actor portraying the villain, slasher, and the final girl. I can't think of another film that has ever done that.
Well, and thinking about, we went to see that and we were like, we heard there's an after credit scene. We don't know what it is. And, I feel like everyone who's probably listening to this has probably seen X, and are probably half the people I see reacting to the Pearl trailer that came out. But, you know, we're watching this movie. I didn't know she was playing the old woman through the movie, the whole entire movie, because the makeup's phenomenal. The acting's phenomenal. I had no idea that she was playing both of these roles.
I don't think we knew until the credits rolled.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we get that little tease for Pearl, and to find out that they filmed it all together. You know, they're done, both movies.
And I've been a fan of Ty West for so long. I know I you know, since we've been together, I've talked about Ty West being one of the most brilliant directors.
Yeah, I feel like it's bizarre that I've seen so many House of the Devil stuff on TikTok the last few days from people. Because you recently showed me that, and that's Ty West, and we're getting off track. But
no,
we're
Ty
just
West
excited
has
about
picked a terrific actress in
Yes.
Mia Goth for Pearl. You know, he's really he's getting into slashers. You know, brilliant director. Getting into the genre that has needed him. And it's almost like, you know, everybody says, are we going to get a new horror franchise? And it's like, I think maybe X and Pearl could be the start of a new horror franchise. And I think Mia Goth could be that next big Scream Queen, final girl actress that we've needed. I think you know, these two, Ty West and Mia Goth, seem poised to really make their mark in horror with this new. I think we're on the verge of a franchise.
yeah, I think I can agree with that. I feel like it sets up enough, you know, story in this world that we could get more than what we see. Because I mean, you know, in X, there's the part where she's in the basement and sees the other body. Like, there's other things happening. They're not the first people who've been victim on this farm.
Yeah, they've laid a foundation for a terrific future stories for the potential of those.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see where it goes, and I'm hoping that Pearl is not the end of the story, not the final chapter. I hope Ty West keeps making more movies in this universe, or at least maybe like does a James Wan and trusts other people to make some films in this universe. I think, again, we keep harping about it, but I think we need more. Like, franchises are what make horror, and we haven't had a good franchise in a long time.
Yeah,
I'd love to see it happen again.
And that's, you know, it's interesting that you say that, because I've seen a lot of people kind of recently saying, you know, where are the franchises of our generation?
I think we're seeing the beginning of them.
I think we are too. And,
not just with X and Pearl, but I think there are other films out there that'll start franchises too, and we'll get more Final Girls, and we'll get more Scream Queens, and that's going to be huge. And you know, speaking of some of the ones that are on the potential, you know, she's not going to be in any franchises, but one that I hope keeps doing horror and continues being my favorite recent Scream Queen and Final Girl, Maika Monroe.
Yeah.
You know, terrific, game-changing performance in It Follows. Like, you will hear us talk about this a lot in the future as well, but It Follows, in my opinion, is I'll say it, it's the best horror movie made in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I remember, I think the first time I watched that, I just red boxed it or something and came home and watched it by myself. And at first I was like, it's such a bizarre movie. And then as it keeps going, it just pulls you in, and you're completely enveloped in this world that's created in that movie, where you don't know what time period it is or where or why, and just things feel weird. And the movie score, you know, really pulls you in, and her performance is just beautiful, phenomenal, and so believable.
Yeah, and to me, It Follows is a spiritual successor to The Shining, because when you look at all the boxes The Shining checked, It Follows checks all those boxes too. And I put The Shining as my number 2 favorite film of all time, obviously, when we had our premiere weeks ago. But It Follows, to me, is a spiritual successor. When people ask, what's a sequel that's not a sequel, I say, you watch The Shining, you have to watch It Follows. And I think you'll see the similarities, these tales of madness and these, you know, very otherworldly experiences, and then beautiful scores to match beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
So, but Maika Monroe, you know, is very much like a Wendy Torrance, but brought into the 21st century, and more of this badass, kind of in a feminist way. When you think about it, there's a lot of feminist undertones to what Maika Monroe has done in It Follows. And also, while we're on the subject, The Guest.
Yes.
You know, The
Such a
Guest
good
is one of
movie.
our favorite movies.
And, going into The Guest, just know it's not like a typical horror. It's definitely more thriller line, which people want to argue that all the time, and I don't care.
It's kind of actiony, but it's like when you'll see what we're talking about when you see. If you don't think it's a horror movie, I want you to watch and focus on the performance of Dan Stevens,
Yes.
and the performance of Maika Monroe, and you can't tell me that's not a slasher and a final girl energy.
Exactly.
It may not be a slasher like Freddy, Michael, or Jason, but that energy that Dan Stevens brings is total slasher. The energy that Maika brings is total final girl, scream queen. So to me, it's like you said, it's not your traditional horror movie, but it brings the energy. It has the vibes, if you will.
It has the vibes.
As the kids on the Tickety Talk say, it has the vibes.
That's us. We're the kids on Tickety Talk.
Yeah, those 30-year-old kids.
Yes, exactly. Going to another fairly newer one, we watched a movie the other night called Mayhem.
Yes.
And it has a lovely lady in it that's also been put into Scream 6, I believe, correct?
Yes, she was recently added, and if you are keeping tabs on it as of the recording of this episode, then you know we're talking about Samara Weaving.
Yes.
Relative, I forget if it, I don't think, is it his daughter? Or is it his niece? I forget.
Know.
Anyway, she's related to Hugo Weaving, who played Elrond and Megatron, and basically think of any fucking nerd movie you've ever seen, and Hugo Weaving's been in it. But Samara Weaving, somehow related to him, and she is she was the lead character in Ready or Not. What was her name? Grace. Grace, yes.
And that movie just brought something so beautiful and new and fresh to the horror genre. I fucking love that movie. If you've not seen it, you're completely missing out. You need to go watch it right now. Don't watch any trailers. Don't let it spoil too much. But
Ready or Not is an absolute terrific movie. It's another one
so
that's
fun.
not your traditional horror movie,
right?
But it has horror movie energy. It is, but it's directed by Matt Bettinelli Olpin and Tyler Gillette, who are the directors of Scream 5 Cream. They directed the new Scream movie, and that's why she's going to be in Scream 6, because they're also coming back for that. But the reason I bring that up is because those two demonstrated that they understand final girls, they understand horror, and they understand kind of it's a similar vision to what Wes Craven had done in his career, because it is just so bonkers and out there with Ready or Not. That I think they were the perfect choices, and because they understood that what Wes was trying to do, what he'd created with Nancy, they did very similar things with Grace. And whether we see any other films in that universe or not, I think they really brought Nancy energy with Grace.
No, I think that's a great way to put it, for sure.
Because it's Ready or Not, again, if you haven't seen it, I recommend seeing it. But if you've seen it, it feels like a nightmare. And I'm not trying to, I don't mean to continue to compare movies like that, but to me, it's like, when I can make a connection to two different movies, I think it helps me understand, what they were trying to accomplish with those movies. So it's like I see Nancy and Grace, I see other characters and other characters, and I think Grace and what she accomplishes, what she lives through, and what she is able to endure is very similar to what I saw in Nightmare on Elm Street with Nancy. It's nightmare for nightmare, and she comes out ahead in the end, and it's just spectacular to see their triumph.
Yeah. And something that's totally off track here, but I'm looking at my little notes, that I've got in front of me with names, because I'm horrible with names, so I write it all down. But looking at these, there's so many weird connections, because you just took her and we brought her into Scream, and I'm looking down and I'm looking at these names in horror movies, and I have Octavia Spencer written down, and I realized we were talking about Halloween, and she's in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
And of course, she has her own film,
Ma, which is so wild and fantastic, and again, another weird, uncomfortable horror that I've not felt before with a movie, so I really appreciated it.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw you a curveball, because I know we did not write this name down, but I do want to touch upon her, because she has been in a lot of films that we've really liked. Anya Taylor-Joy. I can't believe she didn't come up in any of our notes, but Anya Taylor-Joy deserves to be mentioned because her performance as The Witch. Last Night in Soho for me was a game changer,
Yeah.
like with some of the others I've talked about. And she of course has recently appeared in The Northman. She was in the film Split.
Yeah.
With James McAvoy, thrillers, horror, whatever you want to define them as, she is really delivered such amazing final girl scream queen energy with her ability to portray terror and fear in a way that I don't think anybody else has been able to do lately.
No, I 100% agree. The fact that I did not have her on my list kind of hurts my own feelings.
Right, but I wanted to mention her because I just think she has been one of those that she keeps popping in my head as somebody that I think is just one of the most unforgettable performers that we've got right now. And it's funny, I was just thinking to myself, like, I group her with Maika Monroe a lot because I love The Witch and I love It Follows. I think they're both great movies. And it's funny, I don't know if this will make sense to anybody else, but to me, It Follows is the better movie. Anya Taylor-Joy gave a better leading actress performance. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else but me, but that is that's how I feel. Like I group those two together, and I think that's another one where that'd be a great double feature. If you're like, what two movies can we watch tonight? Like It Follows and The Witch, I think to me go hand in hand because they came out around the same time and they have just this. They're two terrific performers. That really just packed a punch. So
they're total package movies, from the cast, the stars, the music, the setting, the director, the writer, everything. They're total packages to me.
For sure.
You're talking about some of the newer people in horror, and some of these, although they're kind of across the board with what movies they're doing, but one of our favorite movies, Us.
Oh yes.
You get. I mean, obviously everybody in the movie is amazing, but Lupita, her performance, both performances in that movie are phenomenal. And she's one of those, again, bouncing around movies. She's in Black Panther. But I would love to see more horror out of her.
Oh, Lupita Nyong'o is one of the best actresses I've ever seen in my life with her performances, not just in horror, but, branching out with Black Panther and some of the film work that she's done. Was it Little Monsters?
Yeah, we've not seen that, but that's one that I've wanted to for a while.
So that's
I hear a lot of. I've seen people talk about her performance in that.
It's but she has. But going back to Us and her horror performance and both performances in that movie, we mentioned the duality of Mia Goth with the role of Pearl. And the protagonist in X, Lupita Nyong'o's performance in Us as Red and Adelaide, and just being able to perfectly capture good and evil simultaneously in the same role in the same movie, with these two very different characters. It is one of the most unique premises I've seen in a horror movie, and Lupita Nyong'o delivers one of the most chilling speeches I've ever heard when they introduce her villainous character, Red.
Oh, yeah.
Lupita deserves so much credit. And on top of that, one thing that I wanted to touch upon here while we are, in the closing moments of the show is let's be honest, there's not a lot of representation of women of color and people of color in the horror genre and community as a whole. And we would love to see more of that. That's why we mentioned Lupita Nyong'o, because it is important for her performance to stand out with all of these other Scream Queens and Final Girls and other amazing women and actresses. But it's important that we recognize what she is able to do and what she is able to accomplish as well.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously with Jordan Peele, we're getting fantastic representation there.
Like Keke Palmer.
Yeah, Keke Palmer.
It wasn't, your typical
Daniel
horror
Kaluuya,
movie.
he's a Final Boy. We're going to talk about him on a Final Boy episode.
Right, we'll do Final Boys and Final Men and Scream Kings. But Keke Palmer, again, Nope is not a traditional horror movie, but she very much brings that Scream Queen Final Girl energy and with that strength that she exhibits in that role.
Yeah.
So, Lupita Nyong'o, Keke Palmer, some others that we got mentioned on TikTok that deserve to be mentioned here too.
I was gonna say we're talking about closing moments, but we'll go on as long as we feel here a little bit. But
we have the microphones, we have the power.
But I have a couple of shout outs, and one that I really liked that I was kind of thinking about a little with the sci-fi horror that we get. But Janine Bryce on TikTok said Lex from AVP, Alien versus Predator.
Yeah, played wonderfully by Sanaa Lathan.
Yes.
I love that role because, and I wrote back to her on TikTok too. I responded from our account and said that she's also, a lot of the elements for Lex were taken from the comics.
Machenko.
Yes, and it's wonderful what they're able to bring from the comics and put into Lex. I think Lex is that perfect compromise of what a Hollywood producer would want and the fans would want represented. I think AVP wasn't fan service; it was just a good story that they went with, and they made Lex a strong character that I think a lot of us can cheer for. Like I normally don't find myself rooting for the heroes in those sci-fi shitty sequels, but she was one that I'm like, God, I really like her, and I really like her character, and she brought this likability, but at the same time she brought likability and vulnerability, but at the same time she brought strength and badassery to the role.
Well, and the thing is, like, I love the Predator movies, and the AVP movies have their flaws, and if anything, the second one, I was just sad that she wasn't in it. But AVP, it's such, you get all these cool, slow-mo face hugger scenes leaping out of eggs and stuff. But she outlasts her crew with, again, being smart, not listening to the stupid men, and doing what she needs to do to survive. And, that part whenever the Predator rips off the xenomorph head and gives it to her as a shield and makes her a weapon, and she's standing there looking like a badass, of course you're going to root for her. She's absolutely kick-ass in every way.
Yes.
I mean, she takes down a queen.
She does, and you hit the nail on the head.
I hate to say it, Ripley, but without a power loader.
Yes, and we'll get to Ripley later. But there's another mention.
She also said Carla from I Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, Brandy. First off, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer was like at the tail end of Brandy's popularity in the 90s. But do not underestimate, Brandy was a powerhouse in the 90s. Like when they got she was one of those names like when you in that time when you saw like Brandy's gonna be in this movie.
Yeah,
you're
Brandy?
like, oh, this is big time.
Hell yeah.
And so Brandy deserves to be mentioned. I think when I think women of color in horror, she is at the top of the list because of what she was able to bring to that role.
Yeah. And another one that I wrote down, I had to pull up her name again. Horrible with names, but she was on the Scream Queen show, won, and got a performance, a really fucking cool one in my idea, in Saw 6, and they showed her, I think, the same scenes, and she had a small bit in Saw 7, but Tanedra Howard.
Tanedra is phenomenal, and also, guys, if you don't follow her on Instagram, you're missing out. She's hilarious. I love her.
She's awesome.
But Tanedra, I mean, she literally won a show called Scream Queens. We can't talk about Scream Queens and not mention Tanedra, but that scene in Saw 6 where she does the tourniquet and chops off her fucking arm. And like, Jinx, you owe me a
Pepsi.
Blood-covered Pepsi.
Wait, no Pepsi, not sponsored. Sorry.
But we could be.
A soda.
But yeah, so it's damn it, you made me lose my train of thought.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. But yes, phenomenal Scream Queens we've covered. But I want to talk about, I said we'd get to her and that I'm going to keep my promise. One that I wanted to talk about, I think, is our favorite Scream Queen is Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley. Alien.
I mean, she's a Scream Queen. She was Zool. She's our final girl, our sci-fi horror final girl.
That's the funny thing is sci-fi horror, but to me it's like she's a better final girl than anybody else we've mentioned.
Yeah.
She represents she brings more strength to that role than anybody I've ever seen. And I say the role, I think gets to the key of it all is Sigourney Weaver, and that the way she portrayed Ripley is how she doesn't just have Oscars out the ass right now for playing Ripley. I'll never know, because it is one of the most inspired roles that I've ever seen, especially Aliens, when we get to see that vulnerability and that more maternal side of her with Newt.
Right. Oh God, Newt breaks my heart. But, the women in the Alien movies, if anyone saw the TikTok that I posted at the day as of we're recording this, I really love Vasquez. And, you know, her partnered with Ripley and Ripley carrying around Newt in Aliens is just, it's fantastic. And they're so strong, and you know the way she takes out the alien in the first movie, you know, using the airlock, totally kick ass, right? But then you get Aliens, you know, she's got these guns all duct taped together with a flamethrower, and then she uses the power loader, and you get the iconic lines. She doesn't care. She does, again.
Get away from her, you bitch.
Get away from her, you bitch.
I believe the line is stay away from her, you bitch. I'll go full Randy on you there.
Thanks. But, you know, you get so much wit and, you know, kind of these powerful, I don't want to say being like strong all the time, but really, you know, she stands up in a room full of men and is like telling them how it is.
I'll be honest. I think with Ripley and Sigourney Weaver's performances, she knows when to be strong. She knows when to be weak. She knows when to be powerful and when to be vulnerable. She expertly played that role, and I feel like with Ellen Ripley, she's just strong when she needs to be. You know, like even in Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, it's like her strength is out of necessity. It's not out of I'm chiseled and hard to the core, because she allows herself to be vulnerable. And in Aliens, again, you know, the James Cameron sequel to the original, we see that she's not afraid to be vulnerable and express her maternal instinct in taking care of Newt.
Yeah.
You know, she's not afraid of how's this going to look to the guys. She's not afraid of, will this make me look like less of a soldier? She is just straight up like, this child needs me, and I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. I'm going to take care of her, but I'm also going to lead this fucking squad and be the leader I was born to be. Like, she can do all of that. It was one of the first times we were able to see somebody on screen who can do it all. And she's not limited. And it didn't matter that she was a woman. It didn't matter that she was a woman in a man's world. It was, she was Ellen fucking Ripley in the Alien universe. And she owned it every second of every role. Even the lesser sequels with 3 and Resurrection, she still made Ripley something that at the end of the day, she could be proud of those performances.
Yeah, 100%. I think you can tell we really like Aliens. Obviously, Sigourney Weaver's done a billion other movies, even, you know, down to Cabin in the Woods. I think she's a voice in Paul, and she does all sorts of little voiceover work. And
one of my favorite non-horror movies, Working Girl.
I
love that movie. And, you know, we get to see Ellen Ripley and Han Solo in the same movie, and it has nothing to do with sci-fi at all. So I think, I think that's probably one of the reasons I love that movie is you get fucking Blade Runner and Ellen Ripley. So
there you go.
Anyway, what more do you want? Rick Decker
and
Ellen Ripley in a movie together. I know this is a horror podcast, but that's one of the few non-horror movies I'm going to encourage you to watch is Working Girl. It's fucking terrific.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the recommendations.
So I mean, we're getting ready to wrap up here, but before we do, I just want to any final mentions that you want to throw out there, because we did have some terrific suggestions online.
God, we had so many.
Really encourage anybody to comment on TikTok and YouTube, and email us horrorzoidpod@gmail.com. A lot of these you guys mentioned to us. This is one of the few episodes I can say where we didn't have to do a lot of work. Like, you guys threw out so many suggestions, we could just go off of that.
Right.
So we're gonna give some final mentions here that we want to get out there and make sure we honor.
Yeah. So final mentions. You know, we had Jennifer's Body. Someone
Megan
mentioned
Fox, Amanda Seyfried, both terrific in that film.
Both fantastic.
You know, they don't do a lot of horror, but I think it would be great if they did.
Of course, there were tons of call-outs for the classics. You know, one of the big ones we didn't touch on was Friday the 13th, but honestly, no one really threw it out there.
No, but Friday the 13th, we were talking about
so
this
many
before the
girls.
show. It's in those first few movies, they had several final girls, and it was a new final girl each movie until they finally landed on a final boy with the character of Tommy Jarvis, and you know the different performances from Corey Feldman and Tom Matthews and all that. So you know that was a franchise that we thought about, but at the same time they traded in final girls for final boys, for a final boy, and it really worked for them.
It did, and we'll definitely talk about that when we talk about all the guys.
Absolutely.
Again, a lot of Kirsty, Nancy, Lori, the big ones. Someone did mention Barbara, which is fantastic.
From Night of the Living Dead, which I know I said the original final girl is Sally from Texas Chainsaw, but that is a general consensus, like through pundits and articles and stuff that are out there.
And I think it's because of the slasher difference,
right?
As
Slashers
to
versus
just someone surviving some zombies,
right? Versus zombies. But Barbara from Night of the Living Dead, and of course the remake, both performances terrific. But I guess she really would be the true first final girl that if we're counting her, I think she deserves to be in the discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Last couple, someone mentioned Jennifer. Oh, sorry, I said Jennifer's Body. Erin from You're Next.
Yes,
Erin, one of my favorites. Super smart, unpredictable. Not just a fast reacting, quick, witty woman, but literally has some sort of background training for survival.
Well, it's one of my favorites because it harkens back to Scream in '96 where Nev Campbell and Sydney even says, she's like, where the stupid girl runs upstairs instead of downstairs, yet they still put a scene in the movie where she has to run upstairs.
Yep.
So, but with Erin, she's the straight up character who's like, I'm not going to run upstairs. I will burst through the fucking door if I have to.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why I think she deserves a lot of love, is because she's the first character where it's like, if you're sitting there in the audience, you're like, this character needs to do this. Well, she actually fucking did it.
Right.
And
she's kick-ass. She kick-ass, takes names all the way. She's phenomenal. Your Next was definitely a huge favorite of mine when it came out.
We could probably do a whole episode on Your Next, and we might.
We might.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, indeed. Some that weren't actually mentioned, but I jotted down, and I'm going to shoot these out super fast. Anna Paquin, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Christina Ricci, Shawnee Smith, and the newer Sadie Sink.
Yeah, Sadie Sink. I also want to throw out Thomasin McKenzie. I think she's really bringing some Scream Queen energy too.
Yeah.
But we could also mention why did I just blank her name? Kiernan Shipka, the girl from Blackcoat's daughter and Sabrina.
Yeah, fantastic. Blackcoat's daughter was
yeah.
phenomenal, and that has Emma Roberts, which someone mentioned as well because of her character Brooke Thompson in American Horror Story, which is from the American Horror Story 1984, one of my favorite seasons. But she's done tons of characters.
See, I always think of her as Jill. I think of her as Jill from Scream 4.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
But she still
comes full circle, man.
Still Scream Queen energy,
Yeah.
and she was in the show Scream Queens. So need we say more?
Exactly. And one of mine that I feel like has gained a bit more popularity with being in the shows, but Kate Siegel.
Yes.
Kate Siegel. I'm sorry. I love her in Hush. It's one of the first movies that I saw her in. And then, we started getting all of Mike Flanagan's series where you have Haunting on Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, and recently Midnight Mass. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, I think, have started to really get into those shows, and they're some of my favorite shows. But she's phenomenal. In Hush, playing... someone, she's out in a cabin in the middle of the woods. She's a writer, hearing impaired, and there's a home intruder, and there's shit she can't hear and has to fight back. That is kick-ass. She's a phenomenal final
She's
girl.
Up there with Erin for me as far as the badassery because of the level of sensibility that she has as a true final girl Scream Queen that actually performs in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. She's really cool, and obviously she ties into Midnight Mass, so that makes it even cooler. And it's his fucking wife, so she's phenomenal, talented. I could talk about her forever. She's one of my most favorite humans.
Well, we've said it before. We're going to do a whole episode on Mike Flanagan, which a lot of that will involve Kate Siegel as well.
Yeah.
So look out for that.
Exactly. Well, what's crazy? Everything I've written down, we've gone over, and I know that there's still 1,000 names out there of women in horror that we could talk about, whether they're Scream Queens, whether they're final girls, whether they just did a really shitty B movie and a lot of people know about it.
I think you said it best there. With
I didn't mean to leave you a little speechless.
no, I'm just this has been one of my favorite episodes, and I'm so excited, and this has just been tremendous, and I this is the most fun I've had in forever, and I hope you guys enjoyed as much as we do.
Yeah, absolutely. We could talk about the ladies of horror, and obviously
I think I stand by what I said. I think we're going to need a part 2 for this, because some of the names you just rattled off rapid shot, I'm like, no, I want to keep talking about them.
And
like,
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
Like SMG, that's my girl. We need to talk about her more, and we will. So until then, until we can do a part 2, we will leave you with this. He had the blackest eyes.
The devil's eyes.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop every weekend. Follow us on TikTok @HorrorZoidPod and send emails to horrorzoidpod@gmail.com with your thoughts, questions, and stories for us to read on a future episode. To all our Zoids out there, stay scary.